Right, and we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Favorite Rugby and welcome to the Springbok team announcement reaction show. That is the team, if you have missed it. That is the lineup, the 23, the 15, and 8 players that will be taking on Argentina this weekend at Emirates Airline Park. Very, very interesting side, and I really like it. I really, really do. I think that it's the perfect mix of giving players an opportunity, as well as a seriously, seriously strong side. What I've just said now in my announcement video is I think that this is genuinely can be considered a form 15, which everybody keeps asking. Everybody keeps asking. To pick on form, to leave players behind. And I think with maybe the exception of Jaden Hendrikse, who I think copped a lot of unfair criticism, to be honest, against the New Zealand. I think all the other sort of selections and the players are all coming off very good matches. In fact, I think there's very few players here who have not played well so far this year, except for maybe a quiet performance from Jaden Hendrikse last weekend and a quiet performance from David Hendrikse. I don't even think it was that quiet, to be honest. I don't think he managed to have the impact he usually has. But again, I think that I don't think he was nearly as bad as everybody was making him out to be. But it's an interesting side. It's a very, very interesting side. And for me, what is interesting is what is this going to mean for the World Cup selections, which will be announced on the 8th of August. We are literally sitting exactly 2 weeks to the day until our World Cup squad is announced. So we've got 14 days before we will know who the players are. I think that also there are certain players who will definitely start next weekend. And I'm going to talk about those players. So, for example, Andre Esterhuizen is going to be a big absentee that people will look at this team and go, well, where is he? He will 100% I think play 80 minutes next weekend. I think that's not even a question. I think he will 100% start in Argentina next weekend and he'll play for 80. So I don't think we need to panic about that, to be honest. I think, that Delinda had an 80, Esterhuizen had an 80. They're both going to get another 80. I think they're both going to go to the World Cup. Well, they are both going to go to the World Cup, in my opinion. I think Esterhuizen will go, and I think Jesse will go as well. Yeah, it's an interesting side. There are a couple of players who are sort of notable absentees. A lot of people will talk about no Dion Ferreira, for example, who hasn't featured yet so far. No Herschel Yankees, who hasn't featured yet so far. Jean-Luc Dupré was brought into the squad, hasn't featured. So there are a couple of players will be interesting to see if they feature next weekend. Because personally, for example, a player like Jean Clay, who I don't think is going to the World Cup, do you play him next weekend? My gut says you probably do. Just because if there's an injury, you can call him up for the World Cup. But I think next weekend you'll probably look at starting maybe Narke Snamming. Although I do think that going into the World Cup, he will be an impact player. Interesting to see that we've also moved away from the bomb squad. We're going with a 5-3 split this weekend, which I think is also probably a good idea given the fact that the expectation is to beat Argentina, and I think we will beat Argentina. But we've also, and they keep saying it, we always pick a side that are good enough to win, but we also want to give players minutes, and that's for me is going to be interesting to see for next weekend who will play. So there are certain players who need minutes and aren't in this team, and I think they'll have to play against Argentina next week. The nice thing is after Argentina, we come back and then we go over to the UK. Then you're probably playing your two stronger sides against the All Blacks and Wales, maybe a couple of changes. So there's still lots of time to get minutes into players before the World Cup. So let's talk about it, shall we? First of all, we've got a poll running in the comments, and as usual, there's a 20% of people that aren't happy. And if you don't like the team, what don't you like about it? Don't be that quiet assassin who just hates the team but won't sort of explain why. What changes would you like to see? Do you hate the team, or are you just not entirely happy with it? Because that in itself is a bit different. So I'm going to go through the team. I'm going to do this in the comments as well. So let me know what you think. So let's look at it, shall we? Right. So if we're looking at this lineup, so first things first, it is a very good front row. It's our 3 best front rowers, if we're being perfectly honest. It's Stephen Kittel, Malcolm Marx, and Francois Herbert. It's our best loose head, our best hooker, and our best tight head. So that is our best front row. We do try to play in combinations, that whole Oxen Chair, Bongi, Francois Herbert, and then Kittel, Marx, Vincent Koch as combinations. So that has often been the case, and I don't think this necessarily means that won't be the case. But it is a bit of a different way of doing it this weekend. But that is, for me, our strongest 3 front rows. It's about getting another opportunity. I think it's a good thing. I don't think he needs to go to Argentina next week, so I think I'll play him another 80 minutes. pull him off, and then we'll see him again against New Zealand. I think Marvin already deserves it, to be honest. I think Luat Diaga needs game time. I think there's no doubt about that. But Marvin always going to the World Cup. I think we kind of know that. If you don't know that, I think you're either in denial or you just haven't been paying attention. Jean Klein is a very good player. I don't think they were ever going to bring him in, let him play one test, and then take him ahead of Marvin Orie, who's been in the setup for the last 2 years. So I think I'd be very surprised if that was the case. I thought Marvin Orie was actually very good against Australia. I thought it was probably the best game he's had for the Box, and a very good line operator. And given that we are a set piece team, very important to have someone that is on top of the lineouts, so that we get that sort of front foot ball early on. Marco Verstappen is an interesting player, isn't he? Because a lot of people were asking why is he even in the squad, and then he's not in form, shouldn't be there. Had an absolute cracker against Australia. Now everyone was having an absolute meltdown over the fact that he wasn't picked at all last weekend. He gets another opportunity at 6. Kwagga Smith is on the bench, so I do think that those two. I do think that Malcolm Verstappen probably drops out when Siya Kolisi comes back, because I think that they will keep the versatility of Kwagga Smith in and around that 23. But if Kolisi doesn't make it, Malcolm Verstappen I think probably starts, and so I think it's a good combination. Next to PSDF the toy, next to Anthony Millen. For me, PSDF the toys looked a lot better recently. Again, I think Franco Moss will go to Argentina and play a full 80 next weekend. And I don't think Dwayne Familia necessarily needs to go over next weekend. I think once again, we'll probably see Jasper Wiese start, maybe Evan Roos off the bench. For me, the biggest surprise selection is Grant Williams. I really like Grant Williams. I think he's a very, very talented player. I have my reservations about whether he is ready for test match rugby in the really sort of the tightness of it. I think that he's a really good player with regards to upping the ante, trying to hit back. If we're chasing game, for example, would I feel 100% confident with Grant Williams coming on in the last 20 minutes of a Rugby World Cup final to seal off the game? Probably not, is my honest answer. I think he can get there. I think he's got the talent to get there. But I think if you look at his tackle kicking is not good enough. Out of the 5, it's probably the worst. And game management, he's still very young, very new to Test rugby. But the fact that they have picked him could be a little bit of a wild card selection, to be honest. Could be a little bit like a Hershey Yankees in the 2019 World Cup, where they are saying, well, we actually want someone with a bit of pace to come on and try and finish off a game. So for me, what is interesting is the fact that Jaden Hendrikse is not involved at all, given the fact he hasn't played this year. He has only come back into camp in the last week after having time off to be with his family after the passing of his father. And unfortunately, you start to wonder and it's nobody's fault, obviously, but the fact that he had to leave camp, the fact that he hasn't been as involved, might count against him. And you now wonder, a player who, for me, was, a year ago, was looking to even potentially start the World Cup, might not be making the final squad. They really do rate him, though. So again, it'll be interesting to see next week, do they go with Jaden and Kobus Reinach, for example? Again, even people will be asking, well, where's Kobus Reinach? Why are we not seeing him? But I'm interested to see the fact that they're going to Grant Williams to start. Martin Lever coming in, I think that was a pretty safe call. I thought that we all know that Damien Bennett struggled a bit against New Zealand. Again, harsh, because he had a pack that was going backwards, and New Zealand in that first sort of 15-20 minutes just didn't allow us anything. But again, it was a case of giving him minutes, but I think now you also have to start weighing up the options. Right, well, if Andre Pollard is not making the World Cup, if he gets injured, who is our second choice 10? And if it's Martin Lever, which I think it is, he needs opportunities at 10. He needs to play at 10. So does Damien Willemse, but Damien Willemse is an established test player. Martin Lever's not. So give him an opportunity at 10 next week. Give him an opportunity at 10 this weekend as well, obviously. And hopefully Pollard's playing against New Zealand and Wales. Curtly Lawrence, the form wing. You can't argue that selection. I think that is our form back 3. Cheslin Colby, Billy joining him there. Damien De Lindy, I'm not worried about that whole Esterhazen thing. I think Esterhazen will take 18 minutes next week. And I think Jesse Creel deserves to go. Off the bench, Bongi Manambi, good to see him involved. I do think he's not playing it at his best, and we need to see him getting back up to that standard. I'm glad to see Trevor involved. Getting a bit worried. I think if we go back 2 years ago, he was one of our top props. So it's a bit weird that he hasn't been involved. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes this weekend. Vincent Cocker is pretty straightforward. Arca, Sam, and Kwagga Smith, I think those are 2 nice impact players to be able to bring off the bench. Faf de Klerk, I think needs more game time. He's a nice player to bring on if things are going badly. I think we would have gone with a 6-2 split, and I think Franco Mossa would have been on the bench, or a Jasper Wiese, for example. If Lekanya was busy playing his best rugby, but I think they've recognized he needs some more game time. They recognize that he's not playing to his full capabilities. So, they're now thinking, well, we can give him 20 minutes this weekend. And then Damian Willemse off the bench is pretty standard. So, kind of my assessment on the team. Let's go through some of the comments and see what everybody has to say. Just scrolling up very quickly. Nick is saying, people complaining about the team but don't realize the coaching staff must continue to test combinations and rotate. Tim van Berg says, also like the 5-3 on the bench to give both our 13s more game time, 100%. Nicholas says, only players that I'd like to play are Dweber, Dion, Jaden Hendrikse, and Esterhuizen. Yeah, so I think all four of them will play next weekend. I am a bit surprised that we're not seeing Dion Fourie. I think he would have been a nice addition to this side, but I think he'll play next weekend. I don't know if he's going to go to the World Cup. I'm a bit hesitant to make that call. Dweber will go to the World Cup, so he'll play next weekend, and we'll probably send Bongi over as well. I also think Esterhuizen said will play 80 minutes, and I think Jaden Hendrikse will play. Albert says, happy but lured mastered recently test game time. Nice to see Trevor back in. Yeah, so I think everybody we're talking about that aren't playing this weekend, and we say need game time, I think we'll all play next weekend. Would you say that this looks like Grant Williams will go to the World Cup? Yeah, I think he's suddenly on the radar, which I don't think he was 3 months ago. Michelle saying, Marlon David saying, if they take Oreo over Clay and Essay deserve to get smacked around at Rugby World Cup. One's played one test for the box, the other's played what? Yeah, making his 13th appearance, been in the setup for 2 years, and I don't think they're necessarily challenging for the same spot either, to be honest. But Michelle's saying 100% rather lose a couple of games now to have answers for the best team, and saying that actually team I would have put against New Zealand for a real challenge. So you say I'm on the bench is an odd one to me, maybe just trying to get him game time. I think it's exactly like that. BHS says pretty nice team. Would like to see Jesse and Andre in the midfield though. I'll be interested to see if we might see the combination next week actually. Grant takes too many reckless changes. Looks good when he comes off. Can we now agree that Mark van Staden isn't above Dion Fourie in the pecking order? It does seem to be that way, doesn't it? It's interesting how things all change. Krista says it's a good team, and even though I'm not a fan of Creel, it's worth testing the combo as we don't have many options at 13 apart from Mum. He is the only option at 13 apart from Mum. And to be perfectly honest, where are they? This country all of a sudden has a problem at outside centre. Ruan now is probably the only other sort of viable option at 13. We don't actually have a lot of outside centres. We've got Henk van Beek, who will be our outside centre in about 3 years' time, maybe even 2 years' time. But he'll start to compete with the country. I'm assuming he can come back from injury, okay. But he hasn't played rugby in like 7-8 months. I don't even know if he's currently fit right now. So we don't actually have options at 13. So Jesse Creel is our other 13. First of all, who else would you put there? I don't think a lot of people are knocking on the door. And at the end of the day, yes, the Kanya will play as much as possible. You'll play in all the big games. But if he gets injured, then what? And you don't want to be in a situation where because you know he's not as good, you don't play him, and all of a sudden he has to play, and then he's undercooked. So as Chris was saying, some people might not like it, but you've got to understand why he has to play. A lot of people are asking about Jaden, and I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with him. I feel very sorry for him. I think a lot of things have gone against him that he had no control over, and I do wonder if that's not impacted his chances. He is coming back from injury as well, which I think is quite concerning. And he needed to get more game time, and then had to leave the squad for personal issues. So it's a really tough one. But TK say, good to see Marty starting at 10. The more game time he gets, the better, especially if Pride doesn't get back in time. He's saying Colby goes through people. Contender saying, I thought as much with off the bench. Between Mapimpi and I would have given the bench role, as even though he has been quiet, he's been more active than Mapimpi. Albert saying Dion doesn't need game time. He will be. I've lost that comment now. He will fill the utility role if he goes to the World Cup. And TK says, yeah, for Grant Williams, hope him and Ibok go full tilt. I feel Esther doesn't deserve a 20-minute cameo. Hope Creel and have a massive impact, and that Delende has a much better game this weekend. Billy is also playing every game so far. Would like to see Damien 15 a bit. I think he'll play next weekend. Jan's saying it's a fair team. Let's see how they perform. And Hugh's saying, looking forward to the essay in Cardiff in a few weeks. Yeah, so am I. Will David Phillips come off the bench at 15, 12, or 10? You can come in at any, to be honest. I'll be interested to see what he does do. Could potentially come in at 12. You could see a Damien Willemse, a Kanya Center combination, which could be quite fun. Yeah, it doesn't look like Jean-Luc's going to play really. Do you think Ruiz needs more time? Yeah, I don't think Ruiz will go to the World Cup. I don't think he's done enough to actually justify it, to be honest. And that's going to sound very harsh. And it's got nothing. Look, he was phenomenal last year. He really was. And he's had a couple of good moments in a Bok jersey. But has he done enough to displace Kwaka Smith, who's been one of our most consistent players over the last 18 months? Dwayne Vermeulen, who's been one of our best number 8s of all time and is back to playing some of his best rugby. And Jasper Wiese, who's been one of the best players in Europe over the past 2 seasons. You know, those are unfortunately Evan versus competitions. Jasper Wiese, Dwayne Vermeulen is out and out 8, so those are probably more competition, to be honest. Kwaka Smith as a utility forward can play on the flank, either flank, is probably not even in competition with Evan Roos. So Evan Roos will play many games for the Boks. I said that, I've been saying that since the beginning. But I don't think that he's had enough opportunity and been at the level we need him to be consistently enough to warrant dropping a Jasper Wiese or dropping a Dwayne Vermeulen. Unfortunately, it's just the way the cookie crumbles. You know, if he was in a different position, you know, then I think maybe he could have snuck in. I mean, for example, right now, I think Bongi's not been at his best, and Joseph Dweba has been getting a lot better, but didn't struggle last year. I think if Evan Roos was putting the performances he was in at hooker, for example, not saying you know he would be playing the same way as hooker, but I'm saying if he had one of those storming seasons, one URC Player of the Year, and he was a hooker, I think right now we go, yeah, cool, into the team you go. If he was operating at 6, for example, given the fact that we see Khaleesi's a bit injured and now Marco Stallings had to come back, you know, I think we were always going, yeah, cool, maybe you can have a go. But he's just in the wrong position at the wrong time. But he's young. He's young. We've got plenty of time. The basement says, I understand the desire to give players minutes. As a result, the team really makes me say, wow, I'm concerned that Eben is not 100%. D is also not firing. Tatum would have been better. I like Escom. Yeah, so I think Elizabeth will play this weekend, and then based on how he plays this weekend, we'll then decide on what happens next weekend. And I think that, I think Andre Tatum will play a full 80 next weekend. Tend saying, I hope to see a centre combo of Willemson. I won't be surprised if Box go to Clarkon for back 3 play and Grant goes to wing. Speech saying the Box littered with tan. Let's start in the high pace, boys. Put pressure early. Outscrum them early, show them early domination. By the time bomb squad comes, we will finish them. Well, I suppose it's technically not a bomb squad from a 6-2 split point of view. Would like to see Damien Willemson at 12. I'll tell you, it wouldn't be opposed to that. I do enjoy it. I do think that's his best position. I do think that inside centre is where he plays his best rugby, and I think he'll be there for the Stormers again next week. Next season. So I'm very excited about that. Yeah, I'm a big fan of David Willemson at 12. I think he complements everything. I think his defense is second to none. I think that he gets over the advantage line. He's got fantastic footwork. He can kick, and he can be a bit of a playmaker, but sometimes struggle as the sole playmaker in the 10 role. So I think 12 really complements him in a lot of ways. 12 and 15. I said, why are they still calling another backup fly off? Like, why aren't they still calling backup fly like Rob Dupre or someone else? You need to give your opinions. You give options. You need to have your options. Alston is not good enough. Yeah, Alston's played 49 tests for the Box. Robert Dupre has played about 49 seconds. If we're gonna be brutally honest, they're never gonna bring in someone. I mean, the fact is that if Alton hadn't had issues last year, I think that Moy Leibach wouldn't be going to the World Cup, to be honest. Because I think that Alton would have been playing. He would have been playing Japan Top League. He wouldn't have had his contract cancelled, which I think was actually pretty stupid and pretty ridiculous, to be honest, in the first place. And he could have had a very good season, and they would have backed him as a second choice flower. I don't think Moy Leibach would have even featured. Maybe now because of Pollard's injury, but what we're seeing between Alton and Moy Leibach, had Alton not had the Hall of Fame situation, the roles would have been swapped. Leibach would be the 4th choice flower half right now. Alton would be our 1st choice flower half right now. Well, 2nd choice after Andre Pollard. That's the reality. And you're not going to bring in a Rob Dupre who, as I said, unfortunately had about 2 minutes of rugby in for SA, conceded that try and hasn't touched the Springbok setup since. Taylor saying, I wonder what Mapimpi will be thinking, seeing Arendse leapfrog ahead of him. Could we go to the same strategy as Wales, North or New Zealand? Awani to put experience being an outside centre, solve 13 crises? No, I don't think so. I think our defensive system is far too complicated to let a wing all of a sudden who hasn't played outside centre a lot or ever move to 13. Hello, Cammy. Hope you're well. Saying happy with the team choice. Albert saying interesting that coach John Earbar points out that Billy LaRue played all his games at 10 in Japan. Michelle says they must underestimate the RG. They've been getting better every week, even in the second half against New Zealand. So I'm sure this is going to be a good test. I think it's going to be a great test, to be honest. I think it's going to be a really good. Excuse the pun. I think it will be a good test for the Box. I think that Argentina are playing good rugby. I think they are only getting better, and I think that they'll really push us this weekend, and that's what we want, isn't it? At the end of the day, you obviously want to win this weekend, but you actually don't really want it to be a walkover. And if it is, you want it to be because we played that well. We don't want a an Argentina team to rock up and just be poor. We want an Argentina team to really to really have a go at us and make us really fight for our win this weekend. And if we can get that, I'll be a very happy man. Because we do need to be stretched, and these players do need to be tested. The other thing, I think Marnie fits in more situations than Elton does, and Rob for that matter. Yeah, look, Marnie these days is an out 10, can play potentially at fullback if really needed be, but he hasn't played there in a long time. Could we see Amon for Villiers and Creel at 15? No, I don't think so. Hugh said, my young neighbour Tom Rogers is back from the Switzerland Welsh training camp, going to Turkey soon. It looks like I put a good psychological word into the Gats. Kevin said, I think they're going to fight hard. We must be prepared. Well, they always do, don't they? They're an Argentinian side which will never die wondering, and they'll never stop fighting. They'll really give it a go for a full 80 minutes. That is the one thing you are pretty assured when it comes to Argentina. And you know that they're going to be very confrontational. You know they're going to be very in your face. Which is good. Again, it's a very good thing. Gone are the days where Argentina were a walkover team. I think they played their worst 40 minutes of rugby I've seen in about the last 10 years against New Zealand. And then even from then, we've got substantially better in that second half. And beat Australia pretty soundly, to be honest. I mean, apart from that, no longer need to ask the try towards the end, which almost suddenly sort of burgled victory for Australia. I thought Argentina looking pretty comfortable, actually, away in Australia. So, yeah, they're definitely not a team that can be underestimated. And also, they've got a very favourable pool. So I think they can go quite far in the World Cup. Dion says, would have loved to see Estes and Creel combination. Grant saying, Money has never looked comfortable at 15. Should be break glass in case of emergency situation. 100% agree. And Cammy says, they've improved immensely indeed. Underdogs of note. And Spiro says, I think it's safe to say Dweber, Roos, Moody are definitely not going to make the World Cup squad. Dweber will go to the World Cup. I don't think Roos will go. I don't think Moody should go. And my controversial opinion is I don't think either of them should go. Caden Moody as well. I think he's a fantastic player. He's probably going to play 50, 100 tests for the Box. But, you know, for me, that back three is our best back three. And I think that Mapimpi will go. I think you have to back him. I think you have to take somebody. I mean, you're talking about a try scorer, a World Cup final try scorer. You're talking about one of the top try scorers of all time for the Box. You're talking about a player who, you know, has an insane try scoring record. And we all wrote him off about a year ago. Remember, it was like, oh, he's looking a bit small, like, looking a bit slow. He's not quite where he used to be. And then he went to that Autumn Nations and scored tries for fun. I mean, he's got, I think, 22 tries in 36 matches. I mean, it's an insane strike rate. Obviously, Kirk Lawrence has got a ridiculous one with, I think, 11 in 8 games or 10 and 8 or whatever it is. But Mapimpi is still a lethal finisher. And yeah, I think he deserves to go. I think he's done enough over the years. Yeah, and again, New Zealand maybe wasn't his best game. But again, the Autumn Nations last year, this time, what I said this time a year ago, we were also having similar conversations. And then he played pretty well last year. So I think Irons is probably ahead of him, but I do think that Mapimpi's ahead of Kane Moody, for example. Plus, you've got Kane Moody, who's more of a 14. Irons, who's played a lot of 14. Chesn Colby's a 14. Mapimpi's at 11, and now Irons is playing at 11. So from that perspective, you know, I mean, most wings can sort of play on the other side, but 11 and 14 are very, very different. One is your sort of more out-and-out finisher. The one has much bigger defensive effort, for example. So it is a bit different. What What went wrong with Fussy? Yeah, apparently, I think there are also off the ball issues. I think from a playing perspective, I think he does need to work on his defense. That we kind of all know that, but I do also think that there were a couple of off the field issues that he needs to sort out. Quickest player in world rugby. I don't know actually. Louis V. Salmon is flipping rapid. I mean, Grant Williams, I think these days is probably up there. Kubas Ranoff's not slow. Flipping Bowden Barrett has got gas. Yeah, there's a lot of very quick players. What surprise selection we see at the Rugby World Cup 2023? I don't think we'll see much, to be honest. I think I won't say boring, but I think we're a very settled side, so I don't think we'll see too many strange decisions. Tians, I think the rise of Dan du Plessis at the Stormers has basically kicked Williams out of his preferred position. Don't think he looks comfortable at 10-50 as he does at 12. Yeah, it's basically what we're going to do to solve the situation is the Stormers are going to give Dan du Plessis to the Lions, and then Williams can play at 12. We don't have to worry, and then we can still have du Plessis doing the things he's doing, but except in a nicer jersey. I think that'll be a very good opportunity for us to spread the resources for the good of the game. Kevin says Estes should go to the World Cup. He needs more game time to show us more. I think he will go. Grant Williams will be the star at the World Cup. I think you might be disappointed with how much he plays, but who knows? It'll be cool if Bok management, if they pick Klein and not utilize him significantly. I think he'll be incredibly lucky if he goes at all, to be honest. I agree. Cannon will play a lot more for the Boks. He is very fresh and rough. Mold them into the man for the job. He has great potential. Well, this is the thing, and this, I keep saying the same thing about Evan Roos, for example. He will play a lot of rugby. He will play a lot of rugby for the Boks, but just not yet. I'm just really sorting out something here. But yeah, so exactly. I don't think we need to worry about these young players. We've got plenty of good careers ahead of them. If David Delaney was injured in the World Cup final, would Williams start ahead of Estes? No, I think Estes would start. If you were the coach, who would you have put in the team for the weekend? I would have probably played. I would have liked to have seen Jaden Hendrikse. Yeah, I probably would have started him, to be honest, and sent Grant to Argentina. I would have. I think I'd actually make too many changes. Maybe Lewitt in for Marvin, just to sort of get that combination going with Etzebeth again, but I think Marvin deserves an opportunity. I don't think I'd make too many changes, to be honest. Yeah, I think it's a very good side. Again, I'm not worried about the Estes and David Delaney things. I think Estes plays next weekend. So I think that's going to be fine anyway. But yeah, so when do you think we will see C on the field again? I'm hoping for the All Blacks, if not Wales. TS says, hey Steve, hope you're well. Manchester of Grant 9, Mani at 10, Williams on 12, be attacking crazy speed-wise and creativity-wise. Keep well. Thank you very much. You're saying, if I remember correctly, they said last year Grant Williams was the fastest in the entire box squad. Yeah, there's a lot of, he reckons Pimpy's faster in the Sharks, for example. I think he is the fastest. Ahmed said, I think we can't always go with experienced tested players. It worked very well in 2019, but you need the X factor this time. They should try new things. Well, I think Orange is a bit of an ace up the sleeve. I think that Leibach could be a bit of an ace up the sleeve. I think that's what they're looking at for Grant Williams. I think Parker Smith is also somebody who's a bit different. Arke Sneeman getting back to full fitness will be a bit of a point of difference. Hansi say, I think Moody will ultimately end up at one or the box. He has played there at junior level, and I've seen him in the same role as Joffrey at 13, I think, yeah. Look, he's spoken about the fact that he might play at 13. On the box, yeah, I'm not sure he'll be a great loose head, but you never know. Are the Box sending another squad to Argentina, or are they leaving on Sunday? Look, I don't think they'll do a complete split squad, but I don't think I don't think all the players will travel over, to be honest. But yeah, so we are going to wrap up there. So people, thank you very much, and we will see you guys on Thursday for the fan forum. I might try to do a live show tomorrow, but it depends. It's a bit difficult because I've got to go to Victoria for the press conference stuff. But we will have the Jacques and Alba press conference up within the next few hours. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. And then yeah, we will have press conference up for you tomorrow and Thursday and Friday. We'll also have an Argentina press conference up for you on Thursday, which will be quite cool. So yeah, we will have everything up there over the next few days, and then we'll see you guys there. Please do smash like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well as we head towards 34,000 subscribers. Maybe try and get past 35,000 this weekend, which would be quite cool. But yeah, people, keep well, and we will see you guys.